Majority Leader and repeal any sort of progress that we've made for families. One of the things that he has proposed is to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. So imagine if he were in the Senate, leading the Senate, he would try and bring a bill to the floor to take away health care for more than 4 million Floridians living in our state. He has made it very clear that we need to either eliminate or make significant cuts to Social Security. In our state, we have the largest number of seniors that rely on that benefit. My mom lives with me. If it weren't for that fixed Social Security check and the Medicare that she is able to receive, I don't know what would happen to her. And these are benefits that everyone has been paying into their entire life.
Let's talk about that for a second, because as you said, Rick Scott had a plan in the Senate to sunset all federal programs after 5 years, which means they could be eliminated if Congress wanted to. Now, he has since pulled back on Social Security and Medicare, those two entitlement programs. Did not pull back, did not say anything about ACA, Affordable Care Act. You continue to campaign and say you believe that they are still in jeopardy. Those programs are in jeopardy should first there be a Republican majority in the Senate, and should Rick Scott be elected. Why is that?
Well, because they continue to say that. I mean, we heard Senator Mike Lee, who's helping Rick Scott get reelected, make it very clear that they should eliminate those programs. They call it entitlement programs, which they are not. These are benefits that people pay into their entire career, their entire working life. My mom worked 12-hour shifts for years to pay for her Social Security, for her Medicare. And what I've seen in Rick Scott for the past 14 years is that he wants to privatize a lot of the programs that we receive, some of these social programs, because he wants to use them for self-enrichment. And we know this for a fact. If you remember, Todd, when he was governor, he vetoed a bill between Tampa and Orlando. It was a public transportation bill that the legislature had passed. He vetoed it. Then he gave a contract to a company that he had investments on. It was, I think, either a Japanese or a Chinese company, I'm not sure. But he gave that contract to one of his campaign contributors and an ally. And he had investments in that company. I mean, people have been using government for too long for them to, they use it for self-gain. And we know for a fact that our founding fathers did not write the Constitution, the most important document holding together our democracy, to allow people like Rick Scott and other politicians use the power of their seat, not only for power, but also for self-gain.
I have to bring up another issue in this segment, and that is the abortion issue, the legal right for a woman to choose. Is that the driving issue of your campaign?
The driving issue of my campaign is the fact that Floridians all across the state can't afford to live here. We are facing an affordability crisis, a property insurance crisis that is pricing people out of their home. I met a senior in the Panhandle. She was driving an Uber. It was after a campaign event, and she told me she had retired from working in a very good company, an accounting firm, but she had to go back to work because she couldn't afford the property insurance rates. But the issue of protecting a woman's right to choose, the reproductive freedom on the ballot, Amendment 4, is top of issue for not only women, but also for men. I met a 72-year-old man. I asked him, what's your top issue? And he said, abortion, making sure that we protect that right for women. And, you know, I was taken aback. He said that his aunt had died before Roe v. Wade, and it had completely destroyed his family, his mother's family. He has 2 daughters, and he wants to make sure that his daughters, his grandchildren, live in a country, in a state where they can have access to this very central issue that is central to our healthcare, to our dignity. I'm a mom. I have 2 daughters. I have a son, and I can tell you, I'm very alarmed that we are now living in a state with a 6-week ban when most women don't know that they're pregnant, with hardly any exceptions to rape and incest, a ban that Rick Scott supports. And we have seen higher rates of violence against women when we live under these extreme bans, and also higher rates of maternal mortality. We should go back to a place where a woman's reproductive freedom is a private issue between a woman and her doctor, her family, her faith, not given that power to a politician like Rick Scott that tries to tell a woman what she can do with her own body.
All right, we have many more issues to talk about. We'll talk about those with the candidate, Debbie Mucarsel-Paul, in just a moment when On the Record returns.
I'm Bob Gordon. Over 30 years ago, we built Gordon Partners on a foundation of personalized service, individual attention, and most importantly, results for our clients. We understand the stress an injury can have on you and your family and welcome the opportunity to serve you. call 333-3333. Let us help you navigate these difficult times. We are your personal injury law firm, Gordon & Partners, for the injured.
Here in West Palm, it's all about the reviews.
5 stars are everything.
We have about 1,200 5-star reviews, all from real people right here in the Palm Beach area.
Here at Precision, we're just a phone call away from getting your garage door fixed today.
Precision Door Service, a name you can trust.
Are you sure? You tend to exaggerate. Go ahead. Call him yourself.
Thank you for calling Aetna. How can I help you?
Do you really have Medicare plans that cover dental, vision, and hearing?
Yes, all 3. Plus, we have plans that include a monthly allowance for certain over-the-counter products.
Really?
That's right. Aetna also has Medicare Advantage plans with a $0 monthly plan premium.
Oh, I like that.
Don't wait. Call 1-888-AETNA-23 to find an Aetna Medicare Advantage plan that meets your unique needs.
We trust Alexia Cox to be a partner with law enforcement as we take on criminals who do harm and prey on the vulnerable.
She's a seasoned prosecutor who has earned our respect and support.
Join the brave men and women of law enforcement in supporting and voting for Alexia Cox to serve as the state attorney.
We have been a strong force in taking on violent criminals and prosecuting crimes because we believe in seeking justice for victims and holding dangerous criminals accountable.
Alexia Cox for state attorney.
Hello, my little pretty. What you brewing up there, Johnny? A big batch of Arrigo Halloween Save Me. Make sure it's nice and strong.
There's no tricks, only treats during Arrigo's Halloween sale. Hurry in for new Jeep Grand Cherokees or new Rams. Your choice up to $15,000 off during Jeep Adventure Days and Ram Power Days.
Here, dear. I made this just for you. Johnny!
For the lowest prices and the biggest selection, you gotta go Arrigo. West Palm, Fort Pierce.
Everyone's feeling the strain of having to pinch pennies. FPL, they are always teaching me how power works and how you can save money.
Find more ways to save energy and money at fpl.com/ways to save. FPL, working for you every single day.
You're watching On the Record on WPBF 25.
Welcome back to our conversation with the U.S. Senate candidate Debbie McCarcel Powell. And before we leave the abortion issue that we talked about in the last segment, I want to get your reaction to Senator Scott's online abortion and gender statement. It reads, quote, "Facts are facts. The earth is round. The sun is hot. There are 2 genders, and abortion stops a beating heart. To say otherwise is to deny science." What's your response to that?
I mean, you know, it's so insulting for someone like Rick Scott, who has been attacking women's freedoms and rights for years. If you remember, when he was governor, he passed that law that made a woman that had to terminate a pregnancy wait 24 hours. And right before the 6-week ban went into effect, many women, the day before this law went into effect, were denied health care because of Rick Scott. And who is he to tell a woman what she can or cannot do with her own body? And you know, one of the things that we need to also respect in this country is that there are people with all faiths. And in the Jewish religion, and I would love to ask Rick Scott, it would be great if he would show up and have a debate about this issue. But in the Jewish religion, people believe that life begins at the first breath. And the life of the mother, the life of a woman, is always central to decisions that they make for healthcare, for the mother and for the family. He continues to lie. You know, we know that he voted against access to contraception. He voted against access to IVF, and yet he has ads lying to Floridians saying that he's going to protect access to IVF. And he's made it very clear he has co-sponsored a national abortion ban. We in this country had Roe v. Wade overturned, and that's why we're now having these discussions. We haven't had to be fighting for a woman's right to choose for decades. Why are we doing this now? And I'll tell you why. Because they're trying to put women's freedoms, women's voices down. And again, when women come together and we organize and we create movements, we win. And we also protect freedom and democracy. And so for Rick Scott to have any word on what a woman can do for her healthcare and her own body is just insulting.
You brought this up. I know you agreed to a debate with this television station. In fact, I was going to moderate it. Why do you believe there have been no debates? Why has Senator Scott not debated you?
I think that he understands that everything he's proposing, which is really not that much. I mean, the things that he does want to do in the Senate are completely misaligned with the values of Floridians. And he's running scared. He knows that this is a very, very tight race. And he knows that when we talk about healthcare, expanded Medicaid here, which he refused to do, protecting Medicare and Social Security, protecting the Affordable Care Act, he has nothing to say. And I think it's very disrespectful to Floridians to not face them and answer those questions. If he wants another 6 years in the Senate, he should at least answer to Floridians why he thinks he deserves another term.
Let's turn to gun legislation, regulations, if you will. What changes would you support on a federal level and why?
Todd, this is a very personal issue for me. I lost my father to gun violence when I was 24. And I've been working on this issue for decades now. And I've met too many families that, like mine, that have been completely broken because of gun violence. Families that lost their family members in Orlando, so many parents that lost their children here at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. And I think it's a moral failure that we allow politicians like Rick Scott do nothing to protect the lives of our children, nothing to make our communities safer. We need to start by passing the universal background check bill. The majority of Americans support that bill, and it would close those loopholes so that people with violent criminal backgrounds don't have easy access to weapons. It's common sense. But unfortunately, again, there's a lot of misinformation and confusion on this issue. I worked with Giffords, with Gabby Giffords. We support responsible gun ownership. That is written in the Constitution, Second Amendment issue. No one is touching that. We're talking about protecting our communities from this gun violence epidemic that continues to take away the lives of too many Americans, and we should do something about it, and we haven't.
I have a minute left in this segment. I want to get your take on how border security should be improved. How can we fix this broken immigration system? I know that's longer than a minute-long answer, but if you could. The system itself and border security.
First of all, I would have absolutely voted to support the border bill. It was a bipartisan bill written by a Republican and a Democrat to send funding to support border security. Rick Scott voted against that not once, but twice. But it's a much more complicated issue than just throwing money at the border. We have countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, socialist and communist dictatorships that have completely choked those political, social, and economic institutions in those countries, and people are fleeing violence. Many of the people that are trying to seek refuge, they don't have anything to feed their children. And we also know that in Florida, we rely on migrant workers in our agricultural sector, in our hospitality sector. And I have talked to Republican businessmen that have asked me, if you get to the Senate, we need immigration reform. We need to allow people that want to come here legally to work to have that pathway. So we need to make sure that we sit at the table, Republicans and Democrats, trying to find solutions to a very complicated issue. And let me tell you, even if we build the biggest wall on the border, which I know that some people propose, that's not going to stop the flow of migrants coming to this country. We have to focus on the hemisphere, and I want to serve on the Foreign Relations Committee so that we can actually tackle those issues.
Let me stop you there because we have one more segment to get to, all right?
All right.
All right, more on Debbie McCrystal-Powell's personal story when On the Record returns.
WPBF 25 and the First Warning Weather Team are excited to be the exclusive broadcast partners of the Cox Science Center and Aquarium.
Learn about science and weather from the most experienced team in the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast.
At the WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Exhibit, you can make your own forecast. Feel hurricane force winds and put your hand inside a tornado.
See the WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Exhibit from the #1 weather team. Visit the Cox Science Center and Aquarium today.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
I think you're leaking gas.
Gas? Reminds me, did you hear about the everyday low gas prices at BJ's Wholesale Club?
I mean, gas prices are so high these days.
And they just keep getting higher and higher. Well, that's why I switched to BJ's.
BJ's, absurdly sinful savings.
At HealthSun, we go beyond healthcare with Medicare Advantage plans that take care of the whole you. Our dual-eligible plans offer more benefits on top of your Medicaid coverage to make life easier. Get a monthly allowance for groceries and utilities and a monthly allowance for OTC items. You'll also access a network of providers who take care of you from head to toe, all in one place. Call HealthSun today.
Jay Schuster's dangerous plan: raise our taxes and risk our retirement. Schuster is backed and bankrolled by San Francisco-based George Soros-style activists, pushing higher taxes and wasteful spending. Jay Schuster and his pals peddle shady crypto schemes, preying on seniors and our families, wiping out life savings for millions. Instead of lowering prices, Schuster's plan raises them and makes Florida's affordability crisis worse. We can't risk our retirements on Jay Schuster.
Hello, my little pretty. What you brewing up there, Johnny? A big batch of Arrigo Halloween Save Me. Make sure it's nice and strong.
There's no tricks, only treats during Arrigo's Halloween sale. Hurry in for new Jeep Grand Cherokees or new Rams. Your choice up to $15,000 off during Jeep Adventure Days and Ram Power Days.
Here, dear. I made this just for you. Johnny!
For the lowest prices and the biggest selection, you gotta go Arrigo. West Palm, Fort Pierce.
WPBF 25 First Warning Weather certified most accurate for 11 years.
Welcome back. Let's talk about, you mentioned you were an immigrant to this country, that your father was a victim of gun violence in your native country. How has being an immigrant in the U.S. and then becoming a U.S. Congresswoman, now running for Senate, how has your immigrant journey impacted you as a person and as someone who has held higher office?
You know, it's really brought up my patriotism in a way that I didn't really understand when I first came here. I am so proud to be an American. I am so fortunate to have had the privilege to come here legally. I came during the Ronald Reagan years when President Ronald Reagan, a Republican at the time, understood the importance of supporting this country because of the fabric of this nation has been built by immigrants. So I was able to come here legally. But I've had the incredible privilege of being able to serve. And only in this incredible country does somebody like myself not only has the opportunity to graduate from college, get an incredible job at FIU, become an associate dean, but to be elected to serve and become the first South American immigrant to serve in the United States House of Representatives was a moment that really made me understand how special and unique living in the United States of America it is for all of us. And that's why this race for me is crucial in making sure that we protect those freedoms, that we protect those opportunities. And I was very fortunate to just receive the endorsement of the National Security Advisors for America. And it's a bipartisan group. Republican congressman spoke at my event yesterday. And I said, you know, I didn't have the privilege of being born into this country, but now I have the privilege of being an American citizen who has this opportunity to serve this country.
I want to see if we can get two more issues in the last 2 minutes or so. One is your focus on healthcare, especially for seniors. I know it's personal because your mom lives with you. How can we improve healthcare for seniors in this country?
Yeah, you know, it's been, my mom has been in and out of the hospital for the past year, and I've seen, we all know that we have a healthcare system that's not really working for the majority of Americans, particularly not for seniors. We need to make sure that we expand Medicare coverage. It's one thing that I tried to do when I was in the House. Right now, it doesn't cover dental or optical. We need to look at ways that we can do that, but we need to support families that are taking care of their parents at home, whether we expand Medicare coverage to cover some of that care at home, or we provide tax incentives for families that are paying. I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars that you have to pay for to take care of your parent. And I know that for those of you that are watching, if you're taking care of your parents, you know how expensive it is, how difficult it is to get good healthcare workers, homemates to help your parents live a life with dignity when they retire. And so there are many ways that we can support our seniors, but we have to focus on that. And that's one of the things that I will bring once I get to the Senate.
All right, the last issue I want to bring up is storm resiliency and the home property insurance issue in this state. First of all, what can the federal government, should they be doing to help people with resiliency to storms on the national level, but here in Florida specifically? And to that end, what about the property insurance crisis that we still face in this state?
You know, and all of that goes hand in hand. And I traveled the areas that were affected by Helene and Milton, and so many people have lost everything. And some businesses and homeowners didn't have property insurance because they couldn't afford to pay for a policy, and they didn't need to because they had already paid their mortgage. There's a bill that I would like to introduce in the Senate to lower property insurance rates by 25%. We are going to have a federally backed program. We know that. The Banking Committee has been doing some oversight over Citizens because they're saying that they're not going to be solvent. Rick Scott is part of that committee. He has not shown up to any of those hearings. And Rick Scott voted against FEMA funding. And we know that we are going to have to fund FEMA to make sure that they bring those funds for disaster relief. Millions of Floridians are depending on that. And we don't have time to discuss whether there's climate change or not anymore. We have to take action now.
I need to end it there.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Great. All right.
U.S. Senate candidate Debbie McChrystal-Powell, thank you for going on the record.
Thank you so much, Todd. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
I'm Jill Hazu.
And I'm Aaron Burns.
We invite you to join us this Sunday for Total Retirement with Ernie Burns, where we'll discuss wealth management, estate planning, and more.
Ernie was named 2022's Forbes Best In-State Security Professional. You don't want to miss it.
There's so much cleaning to keep up with in your house. The biggest job, cleaning the floors. A once-a-year deep clean from Stanley Steamer helps floors last longer and makes them easier for me to keep clean. Wood, tile, or marble, they know what they're doing. And with their powerful equipment, I know the dirt is removed, not just moved around. There's something about the feeling of clean, and for my family, a clean home isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And Stanley Steamer is who I trust for a once-a-year deep clean.
Call or click to schedule Stanley Steamer.
If you don't need a sedan, you definitely don't need an Infiniti Q50 Sport sedan. With 400 horsepower and a twin-turbo V6 engine, it's all a bit much. Or is it? Feel infinitely you in the 2024 Q50 with Infiniti Premium Care included. Only at your local Infiniti retailer.
Current Sheriff Rick Bradshaw claims Michael Gogger was not his right-hand man. Rather than attack Mr. Bradshaw and point out what he says is not true, we'll let him do that for himself.
Mike was the guy that I knew had the knowledge, and I knew I could trust. Period.
If Michael Gogger was not his right-hand man, then Rick Bradshaw doesn't know his right from his left. Michael Gogger has the experience and integrity to be Palm Beach County Sheriff. Stop the lies. It is time for a new sheriff in town.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built in is like...
Hey Google, turn on Rocky's Food.
It's like the ultimate connection. See why it's been awarded a Consumer Guide Best Buy and recommended by Consumer Reports. Drive the Nissan Rogue today.
Get 2.9% financing for 60 months on Rogue, one of 6 Nissan vehicles with starting MSRP under $30,000.
A lot of old, loud, wheeling, bumping, and rumbling garage doors.
Every sound is caused by a problem.
Here at Precision, we can make your garage door a whole lot quieter.
Precision Door Service, a name you can trust.
WPBF 25 First Warning Weather, certified most accurate for 11 years.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this program, we did reach out to Senator Rick Scott to offer a chance to appear on the record with us. His team responded saying he is traveling and will look into his schedule. WPBF 25 News is committed to bringing you unbiased, fact-based election coverage. To learn more about the questions Floridians face this year and the candidates you will see on your ballot, just head to our website, WPBF.com, or download our free WPBF 25 News app, or of course, you can do both. We want you to know you can count on WPBF 25 News on Election Day. Our entire team will be reporting live from Election Night headquarters throughout South Florida. We'll be breaking down the latest data from both the national and local races. We'll also be posting all election results on our website, and I mentioned them, WPBF.com and the free WPBF 25 News app. Matter of Fact with Soto O'Brien is next. We'll see you again next Sunday. Have a great day.